I turned 34 this year. The invite I sent out was simple dinner starts at 6 o'clock. No gifts, just your presence. I thought that was clear enough. By 6:45, the candles had burned halfway, the food was cooling, and I finally accepted what my gut already knew. No one was coming. At 7:12, my sister texted, "Too far to drive for just a birthday." 12 minutes later, my mother added, "Maybe next weekend we're exhausted." And that was it. No apology, no effort. No one even asked how I felt sitting alone in front of a table I had spent hours preparing. I didn't argue. I didn't even reply. I just sat in my quiet apartment staring at the plates with gold rims my late aunt had given me. They only came out for special occasions. Tonight was supposed to be one of them. Lemon roasted chicken for Mom, rosemary potatoes for my sister, spinach dip for my cousin Devin. Their favorite dishes lined up like offerings to people who hadn't even bothered to show. At 6 on the dot, I had dressed up, poured wine, and sat at the head of the table like a fool, waiting for family that never came. By the time their messages came through, my disappointment had hardened into something colder. I closed my phone, walked to my laptop, and logged into the foundation account I had created 2 years ago, the one they all quietly used without ever asking how it came to be. Bills, emergencies, small disasters, every time I was the one to step in. I deleted every authorized name but mine. Then I wrote a single-line email. As of today, I paused all support. That was it. At midnight, my phone buzzed relentlessly. My sister called a dozen times. Then came the push notification that made my blood run hot. Bank transfer declined. Insufficient authorization. The name read, Martin Family Relief Foundation. The sender was Cheryl Martin, my mother. She had tried to transfer $3,200. The same woman who couldn't be bothered to drive across town for my birthday dinner had been ready to withdraw thousands from the account that bore my name. Sat down hard on the couch, my wine spilling onto my pants. My hands shook with rage, not surprise. That was the moment the veil lifted completely. For years, I had thought I was helping, that I was holding the family together. But the truth was much simpler. I was never celebrated. I was never cherished. I was only useful. Provider, fixer, ghost. They had never needed me present. They only needed me functional. Memories reeled back like cruel film reels. Dad's heart attack 2 years ago had wiped out their savings. Without hesitation, I had created the foundation, linked it to my corporate account, and funneled money month after month. They treated it like a family buffer and ATM with my name on it. When my sister lost her job yet again, I paid her rent. When my mother's car broke down, I wired $600 within the hour. When Devin wanted to rebuild his credit, I co-signed his loan. I saw nothing back. Not even a thank you. What burned wasn't just the money, it was the silence. The way they never once asked if I was okay, if I could keep working 70-hour weeks just to keep us all afloat. They never noticed the vacations I canceled, the nights I couldn't sleep without anxiety medication, the way I lived on red alert every time my phone buzzed at 2 in the morning. All they saw was the endless faucet of support. I remembered one Thanksgiving in particular. I couldn't make it, homework emergency, and FaceTimed them from my office Chinese takeout on the desk beside me. They passed the phone around like I was an afterthought. My sister raised her wine glass and teased workaholic vibes. I asked if they had saved me a plate. My mother laughed and said, "Alexandra, baby, you're not really a food person." And that was that. Not loved, not seen, just useful. The memories scorched through me as I stared at the failed transfer notification. I opened the transaction history, bile rising in my throat. Isla had pulled $1,000 weeks ago for professional development, the same weekend she posted bikini photos from Cancun. Devin had withdrawn $500 labeled car repair. He didn't even own a car. My mom had a recurring grocery transfer of $320 every 2 weeks, going out like clockwork since March. I had paid more to feed her than she had ever given back to me. That night, it became clear. They hadn't forgotten my birthday. They had chosen not to come because they didn't need me happy. They needed me useful. And once I stopped being useful, I became disposable. At 10 the next morning, I opened my laptop again and sent another round of emails. Each one carried the same subject line: effective immediately. I wrote, "You've withdrawn more than money. You've drained my time, my energy, my joy. I gave without asking for thanks. I trusted without demanding receipts. You took without limits, without guilt. Effective immediately, I withdraw too. No more transfers, no more loans, no more cosigns or emergency funds. The foundation is closed. The ATM is offline. If you need something, ask each other or ask Google. Happy belated birthday to me." Then I signed simply, A. When the replies came, I didn't answer. My silence was louder than anything I could have said. By dawn, the messages piled up. Calls, texts, voicemails, all dripping with panic disguised as concern. My sister wrote, "You can't be serious, Alexandra. You're just cutting us off." Then another, "This is sick, like emotionally sick." My mother followed with, "This is not how family works. We don't punish each other like this." The irony was nuclear because punishment was exactly what they had done: ignoring me, dismissing me, leaving me alone at my own birthday dinner. At 8:24, a knock rattled my door. I looked through the peephole and saw my sister tapping her foot like an impatient teacher. I opened it just enough to meet her eyes. She scowled before speaking. "You're really not going to let me in?" "I didn't invite you," I replied. She crossed her arms, exhaling sharply. "You've lost your mind shutting off the foundation. Do you have any idea what that does to us?" "You mean you," I said evenly. "You and Cancun and your wellness retreats." She flinched, then sneered. "Don't act like you're better just because you've got a decent job." I told her it wasn't about being better. It was about showing up. I had paid her rent when she was fired for being late, covered her health insurance, given her safety nets she shredded like old receipts. Her defense was always the same: "You said you wanted to help." As though generosity signed me into a lifetime contract. We stood there, her fury sparking against my calm. She tried to minimize it, said I was only upset about the birthday thing. "Stop," I snapped. "You didn't forget. You decided it wasn't worth your time. That's the truth, isn't it? Dinner was too far. Gas too expensive." Whatever excuse helped her sleep. Her lip trembled, but she didn't deny it. "You've made your point," she hissed. "Congratulations. You hurt everyone just to feel powerful for once." I didn't blink. No. I finally stopped hurting myself just to keep the illusion alive. Then I closed the door, not slamming, just ending the conversation like closing a casket. By mid-morning, the family group chat exploded. My cousin Devin whined about his bills being due. My sister claimed I was punishing her daughter Riley, who adored me. They were clever to weaponize the only innocent person in the mess, but I knew their tactics too well. Guilt, pressure, deflection, repeat. I didn't respond. Then came the final blow. A private message from my mother at 11:42. "Your father's heart can't handle this stress. If something happens to him, it will be on you." The words burned like acid. They were still pulling the same levers, using guilt as currency. Something inside me cracked. I picked up my phone, hit record, and spoke with a voice I had never heard from myself before. "This is for my family. For every call, every guilt trip, every time you ignored me until you needed something. I'm not angry. I'm done. Done being your bailout. Done being your backup plan. Done being the punching bag for your failures. You say this is tearing the family apart. Newsflash, there was no family. There was a bank with a heart. And the bank just closed. I owe you nothing. Not an explanation, not a reply, not another cent. Goodbye." I sent the recording to the group chat and left it. Then I left the chat entirely. My phone lit up again that night, a strange number flashing across the screen. I answered in silence. On the other end, my cousin Ela sounded panicked. Alexandra, someone just froze my account. The landlord's threatening eviction. What did you do? I said nothing. She screamed into the void. Are you even listening? You're really going to let your family go homeless? I hung up. 2 hours later, another number. Devin this time. He begged for one more month, said I'd made my point. But his words slid off me like rain on glass. By midnight, I had 27 missed calls. My apartment, though, was peaceful. I poured wine, put on jazz, and stared at the blinking city lights. For the first time in my adult life, I didn't feel needed. I felt free. The next morning, golden sunlight woke me. Not the vibration of desperate texts, not the ping of emergency requests. Just light. And in that silence, I felt something I hadn't known in years, peace. My nervous system, always braced for the next crisis, finally powered down. But peace doesn't come easy when you've lived on red alert for a lifetime. For the first week, my fingers twitched to check the phone, expecting the familiar script. Quick thing, can you send money? Not even fake how are yous came. At first, I thought maybe they were giving me space. I was wrong. Silence was just their tactic. A manipulative pause before the second wave. I didn't wait. That weekend, I drove to the coast, left my phone on airplane mode, and sat for hours with the tide crashing in front of me. No family, no noise, just the sea, doing what it had done long before me, and what it would do long after. That night, I slept for 8 uninterrupted hours, the first time in years. In the days that followed, I began reclaiming what had been drained from me. I rejoined a gym, dusted off a half-finished short story from 2018, enrolled in cooking classes, even submitted an application to speak at a local TEDx event. My topic: emotional bankruptcy, how families drain us, and how we take ourselves back. But just as I started to breathe again, the past came knocking. The letter arrived first. No return address, stiff white paper with words typed in a cold font. Alexandra, it read. You're being unreasonable. You overreacted. We were just trying to make ends meet. Families should help each other. You hurt everyone when you shut down the foundation. You made us feel small, excluded. Is that what you wanted? Maybe you've forgotten where you came from. Signed simply, Mom. No love, no apology. Just shame disguised as concern. I didn't even hesitate. I fed it into the shredder and let the strips fall like confetti. I thought that would be the end of it. But 3 days later, my doorman rang up. There's a woman here asking for you, says she's your cousin. I frowned. I hadn't seen Tiffany in more than a decade. The other black sheep. The one who had called out my mother's hypocrisy at Thanksgiving back in 2011 and had been exiled ever since. Now she stood in the lobby in combat boots and a leather jacket, a file folder tucked under her arm. Hey, Alex, she said when I stepped out. Relax, I'm not here to borrow money. It startled a laugh out of me, the first real laugh in weeks. Upstairs, we talked for an hour, venting, swapping stories of our estranged lives, piecing together the puzzle of family dysfunction. Then she slid the folder across the table. Inside were screenshots, emails, bank statements. I felt my stomach turn as I flipped through them. She had found proof that my mother, my sister, and my cousin had been double-dipping from the foundation. Not just pulling funds for emergencies, but billing reimbursements to a second account they'd created. It bore my name, Alexandra M. Family Trust Extended. I never opened it. I never authorized it. And yet, there it was, siphoning money behind my back. $28,000 gone in the last year alone. Tiffany, who had once worked at the accounting firm Devin used, had stumbled across the paper trail. I hated how they treated you, she said. But this is criminal. My hands trembled as I held the folder. Rage didn't even rise. What I felt was finality, the missing puzzle piece I hadn't known I was searching for. All those years of being the provider, the fixer, the ghost. This was never about love. It was about access. They hadn't just used me, they had stolen from me, smiling all the while. Tiffany leaned back, watching me. I can help you press charges. I've got contacts, even an old friend who's an investigative journalist. This could blow up big. But I shook my head. I didn't want a courtroom battle. I didn't want headlines. I wanted something cleaner. Something that ended this cycle without giving them another excuse to play the victims. I opened my laptop, typed a single sentence, and sent it with a BCC to every family member. As of today, Alexandra M. is not responsible for debts incurred under fraudulent family authorization. Legal counsel has been retained. Then quietly, I compiled Tiffany's evidence into a neat folder and emailed it to the IRS anonymously. 2 weeks later, my sister's voice cracked through a voicemail. Alexandra, we're being audited. Someone reported us. Devin's freaking out. Mom's crying. Please. Was it you? I deleted the message without replying. That weekend, I flew to Denver for the TEDx event. My talk, emotional bankruptcy, poured out of me like water breaking through a dam. I told a room full of strangers how I had confused giving with loving, how I had carried everyone else's weight until I collapsed, and how I finally chose myself. When I stepped off stage, the applause felt different from anything I had known before. Not transactional, not obligatory, pure. A young woman in the front row stood and said, "Thank you." I didn't know I was allowed to stop. I smiled through tears. Neither did I until now. It had been 6 months since that empty birthday dinner. 6 months since my family proved that their love was conditional on my usefulness. And in that time, I had not spoken to them. Not my sister, not my mother, not Devin. But ironically, I had never heard from them more. Passive-aggressive voicemails, guilt-laden letters, angry DMs from Devin's girlfriend calling me a family destroyer. They still tried to frame it as legacy. A family legacy I should have preserved. The irony made me laugh. Legacy. You mean the fraud account you created under my name? That wasn't legacy. That was theft. I had dismantled their system, and they couldn't forgive me for surviving outside it. But I didn't regret it. Not for a moment. The fallout rippled like aftershocks. My sister Issa's eviction notice became public record 2 months later. Her wellness blog and spiritual retreats didn't impress the landlord. Through a mutual friend, she tried to reach me. I didn't respond, but I sent an Amazon package instead, a budgeting book, a gift card with 0 balance, and a handwritten note that said, "This is what real self-care looks like." Devin wasn't spared either. The IRS flagged his fake consulting write-offs and froze his accounts. He emailed me 3 words. "You happy now?" I replied with 2. Absolutely liberated. My mother's attacks came in the form of letters, thick envelopes stuffed with pages of poetic manipulation. I just wanted the best for everyone. "You know I love you, even if I didn't say it enough. You used to be so generous." In one, she enclosed a childhood photo of me holding a Lego spaceship with the caption, "Remember when you built things instead of breaking them." I framed the photo not for nostalgia but as a reminder that I once created for joy, not obligation. That girl was still in me waiting. My life began to take on a new shape. I finished the novel I had buried for years. Dinner at 6, a story of conditional love. My publisher said it made them cry, called it a revolution disguised as confession. I dedicated it to 2 people. First, to Melanie Aya, an old friend I had once sent $500 so she could leave an abusive relationship. She emailed me years later saying, "That money saved my life. Your silence spoke louder than their noise." And second, to Riley, my niece, the only innocent one in the wreckage. One evening, a rainbow-stickered envelope arrived in my mailbox. Inside, lined paper with childish scrawl, "I miss you. Mommy says you're not mad anymore, but she still cries. Will you ever come back? If I bake your favorite cookies, would that help?" My throat closed, reading it. Riley, only 10, caught in the crossfire of adults who never learned accountability. I wanted to run to her to scoop her up and shield her from the poison, but I knew better. Love doesn't mean stepping back into fire. Instead, I mailed her a book, The Little Prince, with passages highlighted about taming love and responsibility. Inside, I wrote, "I will always be here, just not always where you expect. You are not responsible for fixing grown-ups. You are free." I still send her gifts for her birthday, always anonymous, always hopeful. One day, if she chooses truth over tradition, I'll tell her everything. Until then, she deserves her childhood. Meanwhile, I began building a new circle around me. Julia, the social worker I met after my TEDx talk, became a constant presence. We shared Saturday mornings, coffee dates, laughter therapy breakthroughs. She never asked me for anything but honesty. When she looked me in the eye and said, "How are you?" I believed she wanted the real answer. She was the first to tell me, "You didn't break your family. You broke the system that was crushing you." She was right. Healing wasn't about forgiveness. It wasn't about returning to people who refused to change. Healing meant silence sometimes, blocking a phone number, saying no without explanation, lighting a match to the foundation they built on guilt and walking away as the smoke rose behind me. But even as I moved forward, they tried to pull me back. A new group chat appeared. Family Rebuild. Issa added me. Devin chimed in. Mom's messages dripped with nostalgia, pleading for a reset. I didn't join. My boundaries weren't up for negotiation anymore. Still, the hardest pull was Riley. My sister used her name like currency in her texts. "You're punishing Riley too. She loves you." The guilt sliced deep, but I knew the truth. Riley didn't need me to show up as the family wallet. She needed me to show up as the adult who told her it was okay to break cycles. My responsibility wasn't to repair the family's illusion, it was to model freedom. Every time I hesitated, I remembered that empty table on my 34th birthday. The gold-rimmed plates, the lemon chicken, the rosemary potatoes. No one came. No one cared. Until the money stopped. That was my lesson carved into memory. I was only valued for what I gave, never for who I was. So I chose me. And in that choice, I discovered something no foundation account could ever buy peace. 6 months passed since the birthday dinner no one attended. Half a year since my sister typed too far to drive for just a birthday, and my mother excused herself with, "We're exhausted." Half a year since they tried to pull $300, $200 from the foundation the very night they skipped my celebration. And in those 6 months, I had not spoken to any of them. The silence that once felt like punishment now felt like peace. But the quiet didn't mean they stopped. My voicemail filled with emotional pleas. Devin's girlfriend messaged me with fury, calling me selfish, a destroyer of family legacy. Legacy. The word made me laugh out loud. What legacy? The fraudulent account they created under my name, siphoning $28,000 without my consent. That wasn't a legacy. That was theft disguised as tradition, and I refused to rebuild it. Still, my mother tried her tactics. Letters dripping with guilt arrived weekly, as if paragraphs could rewrite truth. She wrote about childhood memories, about the spaceship I once built with Lego bricks, about how generous I used to be. Each one was framed in nostalgia, but hollow at the core. Never once did she write, "I'm sorry." She didn't want reconciliation. She wanted access. And then came Riley again, the only thread that still tugged at me. Another letter in her crooked handwriting, rainbow stickers on the envelope. "I miss you. Mommy says you're busy, but I think about you. Will we ever have sleepovers again?" It broke me and healed me at the same time. I knew I couldn't go back into the mess, but I also knew I could still love her differently. I sent her a package, a children's camera, a sketchbook, and a note. "The world is full of things worth capturing. Start with what makes you smile. I believe in you." I didn't sign it with my name, but I knew she'd feel it was from me. Meanwhile, my own life blossomed in ways I never expected. I finished my novel Dinner at 6 and watched it go to print. Readers said it felt like a revolution wrapped in confession. I spoke at more events, shared my story with strangers who nodded with wet eyes, who whispered afterward, "Thank you." I didn't know I was allowed to say enough. That was my reward. Not money, not family approval. Liberation. Julia became my anchor in this new world. Saturday coffee walks by the river, small rituals of trust. She didn't want my savings, my labor, my silence. She wanted my truth. And slowly I gave it. She was the one who told me, "You didn't lose your family. You lost their version of you." That line stuck with me, etched into my bones. Because she was right. I wasn't cruel for saying no. I wasn't broken for walking away. I was whole for the first time in my adult life. When my birthday came around again, I didn't send invites. I didn't cook lemon chicken or set out gold-rimmed plates. I booked a table at a small bistro with Julia and a few close friends. We ate, laughed, clinked glasses. And when the server asked if we were celebrating, Julia smiled and said, "Yes, we are." She chose herself. That night, blowing out a single candle on a slice of cake, I whispered one word: freedom. Not forgiveness, not closure, just freedom. Because I finally understood that love isn't meant to leave you hollow. Love doesn't demand receipts. Love doesn't punish you for boundaries. Love isn't conditional on what you provide. Love sees you even when you have nothing to give. To anyone listening, to anyone who's ever been the silent provider, the forgotten birthday, the dependable one who never got a seat at the table, you are not cruel for stopping. You are not selfish for surviving. You are not broken for saying enough. Sometimes healing means silence. Sometimes it means locking the door without slamming it. Sometimes it means burning the foundation they built on your guilt and walking away while the smoke curls behind you. I didn't lose my family. I lost their version of me. And what I gained was priceless, a life where my worth is no longer measured in dollars but in dignity. So when I raise my glass now, it isn't to family who failed me. It's to the girl who finally chose herself and meant it. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment with your thoughts. Your support helps bring more powerful stories to light. End.